Next question we have is also, do you think, from Erickson, do you think teachers are better able to cope with anxiety because they have to teach it to their own students? I mean, I personally don't think they are. I think a lot of teachers suffer from anxiety, even having students coming over. What if you have a singer that's just brilliant and wants to help, and you feel like, oh my goodness, am I the right person? Can I help them? Or there's so many things that go on in life. I mean, how often do you experience teachers? Um,
Well, all the time.
right.
Yeah,
So,
because I work with people who are starting out and they often worry about that they don't know enough, that they're not good enough, that they haven't had enough experience, And I remember feeling like that at the beginning as well. How am I going to cope with someone who walks in the door, who's been touring the world, doing what they do, who has some sort of acclaim, and I've just worked in Perth and a bit in London and in jazz, not in the pop world. What do I know, And I realised actually I knew a lot, and that I wasn't teaching them how to tour the world and be professional pop singers. I was teaching them how to gain control over their voice and to fix whatever the issue was that was causing them to be not able to sing well. But yes, I get that all the time, and I think it's a natural part. I actually think it's a positive thing that a person cares that much. That they want to be good for their student. I don't want to take away from the fact that it shows that you care, but I think it's very common that a teacher actually feels quite nervous. And I always feel a little bit nervous when a new person comes along. It doesn't matter what their background, because you want to know that you're able to help them. But I think it's a lot more common in teachers than maybe uh, it appears.
right. Let's be real. I don't know how many. If this is maybe somewhere in the 20s of the episodes of Voice Masters live stream, right? And it can be intimidating. It was more so in the beginning. I'm getting more used to it now, but I'm passionate about this project, right? I'm passionate about sharing knowledge across borders, and it was great to see, I don't know, we had over 20 different countries tuning in today, and it's so much fun. So there's a pressure I apply to myself, as well as I'm making it the best possible experience. And then and how am I coming across as a presenter? Are people enjoying it? Am I keeping it fresh and humorous and being sympathetic and being a real person? And if you get into it, you can really, it can become, you can get very nervous. I've been nervous before. We had a couple of presentations. Um, it's always varies from week to week depending on the time people have. So we range, at the moment it's October 2020, we range from around 100 to 200 people per episode, and then on one time there were like 700 people registered. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to pay more money to up my Zoom account. But I can get nervous, and I still get nervous, um, and there I still use the same techniques to cope.
Mm.
And I notice as a teacher, I often go into performance mode, right? Or as a presenter, it's like performance mode, um, because it is important, and we do want to get across what we're passionate about because we want to help people.
Right.
Obviously, if we're being hired to present somewhere, and then you have a lot of colleagues, then there's always people in there taking notes and thinking, oh, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true, and they don't know if they've never heard of this person, they must not be up to speed. No matter what you do, somebody's not going to be happy with it, right? So it's important to remember, like you said in the live stream today, you're going to find the people that relate with you and relate with your message and relate with your music. Specifically, of course, we're talking about anxiety and nervousness in singing. I think one thing that we didn't talk about today that can be very valuable is to include, if possible, in the best ideal world, but have a rehearsal where the music, the accompanist makes mistakes, where the conductor doesn't bring you in, where you have to improvise.
Mm.
Improvising can be a great exercise to get rid of nerves because things ultimately are going to go wrong.
Mm.
And if you have practiced maybe, okay, a couple of situations, you might be able to not freeze in that flight or fright mode and flight or fright, and improvise. And I'll share one story because I always was very, very good at improvising. If I forgot lyrics, I could make them up on the spot and they even rhymed. And I didn't even know how I did it. It was like some amazing ability, my super hidden superpower. So, and colleagues would tease me about it, like how do you come up with that on the spot? And I don't know. If you're in the zone, you're in the zone. It's like sports. But one time I was not in the zone. There's a section of an operetta, you may know it, Gilbert and Sullivan, Pirates of Penzance, and I was playing Frederick. He's the leading part, and he has this one like recitative moment in that's at the second half of the piece where he's alone doing this recitative. There's no orchestra, and it's simple. It's like three lines, and I said the first one, and I blacked out. And I just waited, thinking, it's going to come to me as it always does. Nope, wasn't coming to me. So what I did was I walked to the front of the stage to give myself some more time, did my pose, still didn't come to me. And I'm like, oh, great. So I walked over, then I just like built it into the show. I just, okay. I walked over to the side of the stage, towards the side of the stage where you have your prompter, the souffleuse. I held out my hand and said, come on, tell me my words. She said the words. I walked back to the stage, got my pose, and continued. And I was, the conductor was an ass. Oops, sorry. But he was not friendly to me at all. He had like a side agenda going on. So he just sat there with his arms crossed, with the baton in his hand, looking at me like, go fish, good luck. And I thought, every conductor I've ever worked with often even mouths the words for you when you're singing, not to help you because they're into it. But nope, he's like, good luck, buddy.
Mhm.
And I did it. And after the show, I had people in the audience. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the first time in my life in 30-year career that I couldn't come up with anything. And they said, oh, really? I thought that was part of the show. In fact, I thought it was brilliant. So sometimes the solution that you make work, like you mentioned, the audience has no clue.
No, I mean, I can tell you many of those kind of stories, yeah. Oh, it's funny because when you said Guild and Sullivan, I immediately assumed it was something like one of those very fast, wordy songs, but yeah, it can be just the simplest of things that trip you up.
Oh, those are awful. I mean, I've done several roles like that. You cannot make a mistake.
Mm.
Otherwise, if you do, I mean, you get back on the next sentence and everybody knows. But thank goodness it wasn't there, but it was almost worse. It was just a slow moment of silence. Anyway, but that happened as well because I was under immense pressure at the time.
Mm.
I was under immense pressure from a lot of different avenues. So it's all interconnected, right? It's how you're doing in real life, how you're
Mm.
doing in your work environment, and it's not always a friendly, supportive environment, and we still have to function as human beings, a performer on stage. But we as human beings, not every day is the greatest day we've ever had. In fact, most of them aren't perfect.
Mm.
And the better we can react in those situations, the more
Mm.
successful we'll be as human beings. So I'm going to take a lot of the tips and techniques that you offered today for specifically for anxiety and performance anxiety, and also apply them to life and use them with my kids who are in
Mm.
sports or before tests and things like that. These are very valuable tools, I think, for human beings for life skills, right?
So the Royal College of Music actually have a simulation room where you go in and you can practice your piece, and you have a projected audience, and you can have lots of different types of audiences, that ones that are very encouraging, ones that are booing. You
Mm.
can have a panel of judges that are very attentive, and then another panel which are off doing other things and writing notes and rolling their eyes and that sort of thing. And so you're desensitizing yourself to that and recognizing that actually all of that has got nothing to do with your ability to perform. to your best. And so you kind of desensitizing yourself, getting used to that possibility of being with an audience that's not so welcoming. So I definitely think that's a very valid practice strategy. Yeah.
How fascinating. I love that.